I mean, I really want you to just imagine waking up tomorrow morning completely free of financial anxiety.
Oh, that's a powerful thought.
Right. Take a second and really picture the physical sensation of that. You check your phone, and there is zero fear about the bills that are due. There's no underlying quiet panic about what happens if you lose your job.
Yeah, that constant baseline stress.
Exactly. You don't have that heavy, sinking feeling that you are just running on a societal treadmill, sprinting as fast as you can while everyone else somehow seems to be gliding ahead.
It is a genuinely profound image to visualize a daily reality where money has finally stopped dictating your stress levels and, well, your choices. And that happens simply because you've stopped treating it like a mystery and started treating it like a tool.
And that is the absolute core mission for today's deep dive. We are compressing decades of research, cognitive psychology, and the greatest financial ideas ever written into a single ultimate wealth blueprint.
Because when you look at how we are raised, the blind spots are just staggering.
Oh, completely. Schools spend years teaching us calculus. We learn organic chemistry. We learn the dates of historical battles. But they completely ignore the psychology of money.
Which leaves most adults operating with a massive cognitive deficit.
Right.
I mean, we are taught how to perform complex, abstract mathematical equations, but we are never taught how human behavior actually intersects with capital.
Right.
We aren't taught why two people can earn the exact same salary, live in the exact same neighborhood, and end up with completely different lives. Most people spend decades chasing money without ever stopping to understand the cognitive rules of the game they are actually playing.
Yeah, and one of the sources we are looking at today has an analogy that frames this perfectly. Trying to build lasting wealth without understanding financial psychology is like trying to win a game of chess without actually knowing how the pieces move.
That's spot on.
You're just like sliding wooden blocks around the board, reacting to whatever is directly in front of you, and blindly hoping you stumble into a checkmate.
It's a perfect visual because it highlights the complete lack of a systemic approach. The core promise of all the material we've synthesized today is that getting rich is rarely about the raw mathematics of earning a higher salary.
Which goes against everything we're taught.
Exactly. The ultimate secret, the common denominator among all these financial thinkers, is that building wealth is about systematically becoming someone who cannot help but build wealth.
Well, let's actually pull that apart, because it directly contradicts the biggest lie we are fed about success. If we are establishing that wealth is about becoming a certain type of person, we have to start by dismantling the idea that wealth starts with money. It's an illusion.
A very dangerous illusion, yeah. In Morgan Housel's research, the fundamental premise is that financial success is not a math problem. It is a behavioral problem.
Right.
Money does not change your underlying habits.
Yeah.
It acts as a massive amplifier of whatever behavior is already there. It is not a magical fix for financial illiteracy.
And the text gives this super visceral scenario to prove the point. If you take two completely different people and hand them each $1 million, fast forward 5 years, and the results are entirely divergent.
Oh, completely.
One has turned it into a billion-dollar empire, and the other is, navigating bankruptcy court. The variable wasn't the capital. It was the exact same amount of money. The variable was the cognitive framework managing it.
Think about the mechanics of that. Handing significant wealth to someone with poor impulse control is disastrous.
Okay.
To use the text's analogy, it's like handing the keys of a high-performance Ferrari to someone who doesn't even have a learner's permit.
Yeah, that's not going to end well.
No. When they inevitably wrap that car around a telephone pole, you don't blame the engineering of the Ferrari. The driver is the failure point.
Which perfectly explains why we see that endless cycle of headlines about lottery winners who end up utterly destitute within a decade. Or like massive A-list celebrities who earn hundreds of millions of dollars but somehow die drowning in debt.
Exactly.
The sudden influx of cash didn't override their behavioral flaws. It just funded their bad habits on a catastrophic public scale.
It reveals a deeply uncomfortable truth about human desire, honestly. Most people do not actually want true wealth. What they are biologically and socially driven to pursue is the appearance of wealth.
But let me push back on this on behalf of anyone listening right now. Isn't that just a fundamental part of human nature? Like, we are tribal social creatures from an evolutionary psychology standpoint, wanting the physical symbols of success. The designer clothes, the luxury vehicles, the expensive watches is our modern way of signaling to the tribe that we are successful, capable mates. It's a primal drive.
You're entirely right about the evolutionary drive. It is a primal instinct to signal status. But in a modern financial system, it's an absolute trap.
How so?
Because you are buying symbols to impress other people instead of buying actual freedom for yourself. The irony is that the truly wealthy, the ones who have escaped the treadmill, often look completely ordinary.
That's so true.
True wealth is almost always invisible. An expensive luxury watch only tells the story of money that has been spent. An investment portfolio, which nobody on the street can see, tells the story of money that has been kept.
You know, the Stoic philosophers actually touched on this thousands of years before the stock market even existed. They argued that true freedom comes from needing less, not from acquiring more.
Right. It's about internal control.
Every time you invent a new desire or convince yourself you need the latest luxury upgrade to signal your status, you are just forging another chain that binds you to that societal treadmill.
Controlling your own impulses has to come before controlling capital. If true wealth is this invisible, kept money, we have to translate that mindset into a physical mechanism. We have to clearly define what feeds us versus what bleeds us.
Which brings us to Robert Kiyosaki's framework. It's an incredibly practical application of this psychology, and the rule is almost brutally simple. Assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out of your pocket.
And millions of people, incredibly smart people, constantly confuse the two.
They really do.
Let's break down the scenario from the blueprint to see how this plays out in real time. Picture two friends. They both receive a $10,000 bonus at work.
Okay, nice bonus.
Friend A takes that 10 grand and immediately purchases a luxury watch. Friend B takes the exact same 10 grand and buys shares in productive businesses.
So fast forward 5 years. Friend A has a piece of jewelry that has depreciated and is worth a fraction of what they paid. Friend B has investments that have been quietly, invisibly compounding in the background.
Exactly. Friend A bought status. Friend B bought freedom.
There is an analogy from our sources that makes this so much more visceral than just looking at a spreadsheet. Imagine adopting 2 pets.
I love this one.
Right, one of these pets goes out into the world and brings you food every single day. The other pet stays in your house and eats your food every single day. Which one do you keep?
It's a brilliant way to visualize it. Assets feed you. Liabilities feed on you. But we need to add a crucial nuance here. This principle doesn't mean you must live like a monk and never enjoy nice things.
Oh, definitely not.
It's about fundamentally shifting your order of operations. You let your assets pay for your lifestyle. You purchase your luxuries using the surplus profits generated by your investments rather than buying them through high-interest debt or by draining your core principal.
That's the paradigm shift. Most people eagerly sacrifice their future security to finance their present appearance. It's the reason so many people look wealthy on Instagram, but are one missed paycheck away from total financial ruin.
Yeah, the illusion of wealth.
So if we understand that assets are the pets bringing us food, the obvious next hurdle is acquiring them. And the key insight here is that building an asset base isn't about making one massive, heroic financial move.
Not at all. James Clear's research heavily informs this part of the blueprint. Lasting success is never the result of one giant leap. It is the result of thousands of tiny, seemingly inconsequential decisions.
We have to talk about the chessboard analogy from the text to illustrate how compound growth works, but I really want to dig into why our brains hate it so much.
Oh, our brains despise it.
The math is simple, right? You put 1 grain of rice on the first square of an empty chessboard. You double it on the next. 2, then 4, then 8, 16. In the beginning, it looks entirely pathetic.
It looks completely meaningless. But because exponential growth is happening, by the time you reach the second half of that board, that single grain has mutated into mountains of rice.
It's staggering.
And money, knowledge, and healthy habits all compound in this exact same way. The friction comes from the fact that human brains did not evolve to understand exponential growth. We are biologically wired to think linearly.
We expect a straight line. We expect that if we put in 10 units of effort, we should see 10 units of reward immediately. Saving $10 today feels completely invisible.
Right. It's like a drop in the bucket.
Reading 10 pages of a finance book feels pointless. But if you stretch that over 5 years, that compounded knowledge and capital completely rewires your reality.
There's a very sharp double-edged sword here that we have to warn you about, though. Improvement compounds, but neglect compounds with the exact same ferocity.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Missing one single workout or impulsively spending that $10 on a Tuesday, it doesn't register as a failure in the moment. But over years, the compounding effect of daily neglect will entirely transform your life for the worse.
That's terrifying.
People operate under the delusion that they will eventually rise to the level of their lofty goals. The reality is that you fall to the level of your daily systems.
I have a deeply relatable question here, though. When skipping the coffee to save that $10 or sitting down to read those 10 pages feels so utterly invisible and unrewarding in the present moment, how does a normal human being actually sustain that?
It's tough.
When the math is invisible, where does the daily drive actually come from?
You stop relying on in-the-moment motivation and start relying on a crystalline destination. To stick with habits that offer zero immediate dopamine hit, you have to have absolute, unwavering clarity on where you're actually going.
Napoleon Hill's research entirely backs this up. He spent decades analyzing the most extraordinary success stories of his era, and the common denominator wasn't a high IQ.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't generational wealth or elite formal education. The ultimate predictor of success was clarity. They knew exactly, down to the granular details, what they were moving toward.
The subconscious mind operates very much like a GPS navigation system. If you open up Google Maps, it doesn't matter if you have the most powerful smartphone on the planet with the fastest processor.
Right.
If you do not explicitly type in a destination, it literally cannot calculate a route for you.
The sources bring up the car analogy here, and we can actually explain this using cognitive psychology. Have you ever decided you wanted to buy a very specific make and model of a car? Like maybe a blue SUV.
Oh, definitely.
The second you consciously decide you want it, you suddenly see that exact blue SUV everywhere. At the grocery store, in the lane next to you, parked on your street. Those vehicles didn't magically spawn into existence.
They were always there.
Exactly. What changed was your brain's reticular activating system. Your cognitive filter changed.
This is confirmation bias actively working for you instead of against you. And it applies directly to wealth building. If your internal monologue constantly repeats, "I'm always broke," or "the system is rigged against me," your brain acts as a highly paid defense attorney.
Wait, really? A defense attorney?
Yes, it will aggressively scan your environment for evidence to prove your deepest beliefs right. You will only see obstacles.
So you have to actively reprogram that filter with constructive beliefs. You don't rely on blind, toxic positivity, but actionable clarity. You shift the internal dialogue from, "I will never be rich," to a directive like, "I am actively learning skills that increase my market value."
That is a believable, concrete directive. Your brain can accept that as a valid destination and immediately begin routing your daily decisions toward it.
Okay, so we have the destination programmed, and we understand the map. But human beings are inherently flawed. We get tired, we get emotional, we get stressed out. How do we ensure we don't veer completely off a cliff on a terrible day?
We remove the human driver entirely.
Okay, this is where Ramitshethi's concept of environmental design changes everything. The rule is, do not rely on motivation.
Let's use the toothbrush analogy to illustrate this. Think about your morning routine. Do you wake up, stare at the ceiling, and summon a deep, overwhelming well of inner motivation and willpower just to brush your teeth?
No, I just walk into the bathroom and do it while I'm half asleep.
Exactly, because the system already exists. It is an automated part of your physical environment. You don't need willpower to execute a habit that is already built into the architecture of your day.
Makes total sense.
Now, apply that same architectural logic to your investments.
So we're talking about cognitive load and decision fatigue. Over the course of a day, your willpower is a finite resource. By the evening, it's entirely depleted.
Completely drained.
So if your investment strategy relies on you making a conscious, disciplined choice at the end of every month, you are going to fail. But if you automate it, if the second your paycheck hits your account, a percentage is automatically routed into your investments and savings before you even wake up. No willpower is required.
It acts as an unbreakable emotional safeguard. Humans fluctuate wildly. On Monday morning, after listening to a deep dive, you might feel incredibly disciplined.
Sure.
But by Friday evening, after a brutal week at work, when you see a massive sale online, your depleted brain will easily convince you that buying a depreciating gadget is just, self-care.
It's essentially a modern Ulysses pact. You are tying yourself to the mast. The secret to long-term wealth isn't building a stronger, more resilient defense against your own impulses. The secret is physically moving your money out of reach before your impulses even wake up.
Wealthy people do not possess superhuman discipline. They really don't. They just acknowledge their own psychological flaws and build automated systems that make the right choices for them. They know that a designed environment will beat raw motivation every single time.
We've decoded a massive amount of psychology today. I want to pull all these threads together to synthesize the ultimate wealth blueprint we promised. But we aren't just listing bullet points, right? This is about a complete personality overhaul.
Absolutely.
It starts with mastering your psychology, understanding that your external bank account is just a reflection of your internal behavior.
It requires an active shift from consuming to accumulating. You prioritize buying assets, those pets that bring you food, long before you try to buy a lifestyle.
And you build that asset base through tiny daily compounding habits, fighting against your brain's desire for linear, immediate rewards. You focus on developing valuable skills because ultimately your ability to solve complex problems for the world is your greatest leveraged investment.
While simultaneously automating that wealth creation. Designing an environment that removes your own emotional fluctuations from the equation, allowing you to think in decades rather than days. The trees that are providing heavy shade today were planted by someone thinking long-term decades ago.
But despite all of this proven cognitive and financial architecture, people still inevitably ask the exact same question. Okay, but what is the fastest way to get rich?
Which proves they missed the fundamental point. It is entirely the wrong question to ask.
Because wealth isn't a singular event you cross a finish line for.
Precisely. The question you should be obsessing over is, how do I become the kind of person who naturally generates wealth? Wealth is merely a side effect.
Right.
It is a predictable byproduct of becoming more valuable, more disciplined, highly patient, and intensely useful to society.
It circles all the way back to the chess analogy. It's not about the math, it's about the player you become. As we close out this deep dive, I want you to perform a quick visualization exercise. Close your eyes and imagine yourself exactly 10 years from this exact moment.
Picture two vastly different versions of your future self. The first version spent the next decade chasing the mere appearance of wealth.
The symbols.
Yeah, they bought the physical symbols, they financed their lifestyle with high-interest debt to impress strangers, and they allowed their unexamined impulses to dictate their capital.
Now picture the alternative. This version quietly and systematically built assets. They overrode their linear brain and trusted the invisible math of compounding. They mapped a clear destination, controlled their emotional decision fatigue, and automated their success.
Both of those future versions were given the exact same 24 hours in a day. They had the same starting line. The only difference separating those two realities was the tiny, invisible cognitive decisions they repeated every single morning.
There is a quote from the source material that serves as the perfect anchor for this. Money is an excellent servant, but a terrible master. True wealth is not defined by having millions of digits sitting in a database.
Not at all.
True wealth is owning your time. It is owning your daily choices and owning your peace of mind. The greatest, most robust asset you will ever acquire is the person you become in the process of building it.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over today. Take a hard, objective look at your calendar and your bank statement from the last 30 days.
Oh man, that is a brutal mirror to hold up.
It's confronting, but entirely necessary. If a total stranger picked up your calendar and your bank statement right now, with no context, what would they assume your ultimate destination is? Does the narrative that your money and your time tell actually match the destination you think you programmed into your subconscious Google Maps?
If you want to wake up tomorrow morning genuinely free of financial anxiety, you have to make sure your map and your daily actions are finally pointing in the exact same direction. Keep questioning the systems around you, keep exploring these concepts, and start building that invisible wealth today.